I want to tell you about a negotiation we were in a few years ago. Alexis was representing a buyer, first-time investor, woman, incredibly well-researched. She had done more homework on this property than the listing agent had done in his entire career. I'm fairly certain. The listing agent was, how do I put this professionally? A lot. Very loud, very fast, very certain that the most important person in the room was him. He talked over her questions. He dismissed her numbers. At one point, he actually said, and I am absolutely not making this up, "Don't worry about that part, sweetheart."
Please remind me again. I can't remember what happened. It's been a long time. I forgot.
She sat very still. She waited for him to finish performing.
Okay.
And then she asked one question. "Walk me through how you arrived at this price."
Now I remember.
He couldn't. He stumbled. He contradicted himself twice. And she, completely calm, not one raised voice, slight smile, negotiated $23,000 off of the asking price. Afterward, she said to me, "He thought I was nervous. I was listening." That is the female advantage, and that is this entire episode.
I have watched that exact scene play out more times than I can count. Different rooms, different decades, same result. Disrespect.
Welcome back. I am Natalie Francinne.
And I'm Alexis Nassif. And I have been waiting to record this episode for a long time. Hope you enjoy.
Before we get into the advantages, I want to name something directly because I think it needs to be said out loud on a show that exists specifically to have the conversations the industry hoped you'd never have. The real estate industry framed women's instincts as problems to be managed. The woman who researches thoroughly. She's overthinking it.
Yeah.
The investor who won't be rushed. She's not ready. The negotiator who reads the room instead of bulldozing it. She's too emotional. Every one of those things was actually an advantage, and the industry knew it.
It was a calculation. A confident client moves faster. Faster transactions close sooner. Commissions arrive sooner. Your hesitation was inconvenient for them, so they called it a flaw.
I want to stay with that for a second because I think some listeners are going to feel that land. The thing you were told was wrong with you, the questions you asked that someone called excessive, the pace you kept that someone called too slow, the instinct you had that someone talked you out of, that was not a flaw. That was the industry protecting its timeline at your expense.
45 years, I watched it for 45 years, and I'm angry about it. I want that on the record, Natalie.
It's on the record, Alexis. Okay, let's name some advantages, all of them. And let's be specific because women are intuitive. It is not a strategy. What we're talking about today are specific deployable skills that produce measurable outcomes. First advantage, empathy. And I need to say up front, if you just rolled your eyes at the word empathy in a business context, I understand. It has been used to describe everything from genuine emotional intelligence to she brings nice energy to the office. We are not talking about nice energy here, not today. We're talking about a specific negotiating capability.
Empathy in negotiation means you understand what the other side actually needs, not what they're saying, what they need. When you have that, you can structure an offer that addresses their real concern and gets you the price you want every time.
The agent who is only listening to what is being said is working with half of the information. The agent who is also reading what's not being said, the seller who needs to close before the school year starts, the executor who is exhausted and just wants this done, the divorcing spouse who would accept less money for more certainty. That agent is working with the full picture, and women are, on average, better calibrated to that second layer.
Consistently across decades of transactions.
Not because of biology. Let's be clear about that. Because of practice. Women have been reading rooms and navigating emotional dynamics their entire lives. In most professional settings, that skill gets you called sensitive. In a negotiation, it gets you $23,000 off of the asking price.
Or a settlement that actually holds, or an estate dispute that resolves without litigation.
The judicial version of this is worth its own moment.
Okay.
Because in a divorce proceeding or a probate dispute, the other side is not a dispassionate market actor. They are a person with grief or fear or decades of accumulated resentment. The person who understands what they actually need can often find a resolution that the person arguing purely legal position cannot. I watched an estate dispute that was heading towards litigation resolve in an afternoon because one woman, the daughter, stopped arguing about the property and said, "I don't think this is actually about the house. What is this about?" The brother had felt left out of his parents' lives for years. The house was just where that was landing. The moment that surfaced, the property negotiation took 20 minutes.
Unbelievable. The property was never the problem, obviously.
It almost never is. Second advantage, research. And I'm going to make this personal because I think it's more useful that way. I was ready to buy my first investment property about 10 years into my career.
Yep.
Found property I believed in, done the analysis, numbers worked. A male colleague I trusted told me the market was about to turn. He said to wait. I waited 18 months. The property I had been tracking appreciated 23%.
Well, what did you learn out of that? Tell me.
I learned that his confidence was not the same thing as his accuracy. He had a feeling. I had a spreadsheet, and I let his feeling override my spreadsheet because he said it louder. After that, I made myself a rule. I do not abandon research for a vibe. Not mine, not anyone else's.
Women investors research more thoroughly before making decisions, ask more questions, are less susceptible to manufactured urgency. Every study on that confirms. What I've seen in this practice has blown me away.
The manufactured urgency thing is worth naming specifically. There are 3 other offers. The market is about to shift. If you wait, you'll miss it. These are the sentences designed to make you move before you're ready and override the analysis that you've done. The thorough researcher doesn't get panicked by those sentences.
Yeah.
She asks, show me the other offers. Tell me specifically what market shift you're predicting and why. The urgency either holds up to scrutiny or it evaporates. And if it evaporates, you just learned something important about who you're working with.
The investor who has done the work knows the difference between genuine opportunity and pressure. That knowledge is worth more than any single deal.
Absolutely. And in a legal proceeding, the woman who has done thorough research is the most powerful person in the room. I have been in estate proceedings where nobody, not the attorney, not the co-heirs, not the executor, had actually done the work to understand what the estate contained. The person who walked in, having done that work, controlled everything that followed.
Patience, the advantage that looks like nothing until it produces everything.
This one I want to talk about carefully because patience gets used against women too. She can't make a decision. She's stalling when actually she's holding a position that's correct and waiting for the market to confirm it. There's a difference between patience as a strategy and patience as avoidance. We should name both.
Patience as a strategy. You have a long horizon view. You understand the fundamentals, and you are not going to be pressured into selling before the asset has done its job. That is wealth building behavior.
Patience as avoidance. You are holding because making a decision is uncomfortable, and you are using waiting for the right moment as cover for not acting. We talked about that in episode 2, and I will not relitigate it here except to say, know which one you are doing.
The studies are consistent. Women are less likely to sell on emotion in a down market, less susceptible to panic. And the investors who had through 29, 11, 20 did not make the panic sale are the investors whose wealth grew dramatically in the years that followed.
I had a client, Helen. We called her in episode 9. You'll meet her properly then, who was being strongly advised by her financial advisor to sell her rental property. Simplify. Too much work. Take the cash. She called me. I asked her the 20-year question. She knew the answer immediately. She kept the property. She is now 74, and The rental property income exceeds what her salary was when she retired. Her financial advisor gave her the advice that was convenient for him. Her patients gave her the outcome that was right for her.
Patience is a competitive advantage when almost everyone around you is reacting. You just have that patience and don't react. You'll be a winner.
Fourth advantage. And this one I think gets dismissed as sentiment. So I want to make it concrete. The mentorship network. Women support women. I know that's not universally true, but in real estate, in my experience, it is more true than in almost any other industry. And the network effects are not warm and fuzzy. They are financial.
Information moves differently in trust-based networks. Opportunities surface that would never surface in a purely transactional relationship.
Let me make that specific. The best real estate information I have received in my career, the deals I found before they were public, the attorneys who genuinely work for their clients, the advisors worth trusting. Almost all of it came through women. Women who had no financial incentive to give me that information. They gave it because we were in a relationship that operated on a different basis than commission. That is not sentiment. That is deal flow. That is market intelligence. That is access that no advertising budget produces.
The mentor who brings you into the room, she had to fight to get into. The multiples everything. That multiplies everything. It really does.
And I want to say something to the women who have built expertise in this industry. The ones who have been in those rooms for decades. You have an obligation, not charity, strategy. Bringing other women into the room expands the network for everyone. The information flows back. The opportunities multiply. This show is that. This is Alexis bringing 45 years of rooms into your living room.
I should have done this a lot sooner instead of waiting so long.
You're doing it now, Alexis. That is what counts. I want to be honest here because I think it actually serves you more than just celebrating the advantages does. There are places where this breaks down, where the same qualities that are strengths become liabilities. And I think we should name them.
Yeah. The override problem. You research correctly, your instinct is right, and then someone confident walks in and you defer to them anyway. It is more common in women than men, and it becomes very expensive.
I have done this, documented, spreadsheet level conviction, and then an authoritative voice in the room said something contradictory, and I felt myself start to fold. Not because the new information was better, because the delivery was more confident. It took me years to separate confidence from accuracy. They are not the same thing. They are not even correlated.
The second place it breaks down, the apologetic ask. I'm sorry.
Oh, this one. Yes. Tell us about it, Alexis.
Framing what you're owed as a request rather than a position. Would it be okay if, instead of, this is what I need and I want?
I catch myself doing this still. In negotiations I've been in for 20 plus years, the sentence starts to come out as a question, and I have to consciously reframe it as a statement. It is a muscle, and it requires practice, and honestly, it requires someone to tell you it's happening, which is another reason the network matters. The other thing I'll name, staying too long, patience is an advantage. It can become an avoidance. I have watched clients hold properties that should have been sold 3 years ago because patience had turned into paralysis. Know the difference.
The advantages are real. The work is deploying them without the apology. The culture trained you to attach to them. That apology doesn't need to be there.
Okay, Alexis, say that again.
The advantages are real. Stop apologizing for them. Get some backbone. They need the backbone.
Let's connect this to the legal context specifically, because that's where this show lives. The divorce proceeding, the probate dispute, the estate negotiation. How do the female advantages play in those rooms?
Extraordinarily well when they're deployed intentionally. It has to be an intentional deployment.
Empathy in a divorce proceeding means understanding what your spouse actually needs from the settlement and using that to structure a negotiation that gets you what you need. Not a concession, a strategy. I have watched women use this to resolve settlements that would otherwise have taken months. Not because they gave up anything, because they found the thing the other side actually needed and offered it in exchange for the thing they needed.
Research in probate contest, being the most prepared person in the room is the single most powerful position available to any heir. The court responds to preparation. The other parties respond to preparation. The attorney works better with the prepared client. Don't go in and not know what you're wanting.
Patience in a legal proceeding means not accepting a bad settlement because the process is uncomfortable and you want it to end. This one costs women money every day. The practice advantage says, I can hold this position. The process has a timeline, and I will use it rather than escape from it.
Very good. That's true. The judicial war does not reward the loudest person in the room. It rewards the most prepared, the most patient, the person who understood what everyone else needed before they walked in. That is not a description of an ideal. That is a description of you, not somebody else.
He thought you were nervous. You were listening. Walk into every room that way. 3 things before episode 6. 1, name the female advantage you most underuse. Not the one you're best at, the one you hold back on. the research you do but don't trust, the patience you have but apologize for, the question you know to ask but don't because you don't want to seem difficult. Name it. That is your focus this week. 2, find one moment this week where you replace the apologetic ask with a direct statement. Just one. This is what I need instead of would it be okay if. Notice what happens. 3, identify one woman in your network whose real estate knowledge or experience you have been under leveraging. Call her, not to ask for anything specific, just to be in the conversation.
And the question I want you sitting with, the last time someone talked you out of your own research, who was that person? And were they right? If the answer is no, remember that the next time the same thing happens.
Great advice.
Absolutely. I hope they take it.
I hope so too.
Something I've learned.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to end with the sentence I started with because I want it to be the thing you take with you. He thought she was nervous. She was listening. This is available to every person listening right now. The question you've been afraid to ask. The position you weren't sure you had the right to hold. The patience that everyone in the room is pressuring you to abandon. Keep the question. Hold the position. Be patient. Let them underestimate you. It has always been the better strategy.
That's right, it has been. The industry underestimated women for 45 years. Look how that turned out for them. Women excel now. I know, what are you going to do, you know?
Next week, real estate during divorce, the judicial war up close. This is the episode for anyone who is in it right now and for everyone who needs to be prepared before they are. I am Natalie Francinne.
And I'm Alexis Nassif.
This is Wealth, War, and Real Estate. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed. See you next week.
Bye-bye.